that just came in too. Michelle, who's here, just to give you some questions. She'll probably ask those herself. So, but
check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2.
Is that helpful?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
You're Mary Jean, right? Yeah. Nice to meet you. I met everybody else. I realized I hadn't met them in person. I was just good luck, everybody. I'll be right down.
Okay. Close enough.
Boy, thank you.
I know, sorry. That's like
Oh, yeah.
All of this being recorded too. We're gonna have.
Does that mean you're going to talk more?
They've already signed me up for I think longer than anyone else.
Okay, so
Yesterday, I had 20 minutes.
I mean, if someone's going to go back through the tape,
You know where you got some of that problem was me going, wow,
action items. That's fine. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever you.
It's all right. Maybe it's the first time that the crowd has had a
Yes, I don't want. I don't need.
orientation.
I don't need. Yeah, I don't need dialogue. I just need. We just need.
I don't know, awesome. Maybe different.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I mean, for the things you want to say, you have to get back to them. Where Denny's
What?
Sort of thing.
Yeah. They are like 4 rows behind that middle camera on the end, on that far over. Go walk down that other aisle. They're on the right.
John, they were going to do municipal city water. Who's actually the appropriate?
Okay, there are a lot of people there. On the agenda down here, there was a woman Indian Trail. Where is that? Do you have the initial first draft? The first draft for this? Tim knows. She's here in the audience, okay? She's the head of the Indian Trails Water District, okay? They have to vote. You know, they have to have a vote. So the people
all I
get
saw
to vote
was
on it,
first.
okay?
Well,
The
you looked in the
county
van.
sitting right there, right in the very
I don't
front
know.
over here, the utility directors and the people that
Right.
could make it happen, that would have to contract with her. Once they decide 51% of people want it, it's feasible. They already have the feasibility study and
Yeah.
they could do it. What would happen would be there's
Oh, the little.
2 ways that this could occur. They could get all the funding for everything somehow. Superfund side or something, you know, that they've done, they brought water into some side. Possibly not. They could make it available up to the home and then you pay $17,000 to hook it, to pull the bond back. So they could do bonds, or they extend the bonds for like 30 years to help with the payments and everything. So paying for it, that's the big issue. And right now they're depressed.
I can.
They don't want to spend another dime. City water would be a marvelous thing. Help from a public health standpoint. It's a good thing to advocate. We would advocate for availability. Stop at that. We wouldn't demand hookup, but that would have to be. And it's in the plan, you know, it's in the works if they vote for it.
I mean, I have a timer on my laptop. I might just.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's it. What was her name? Michelle? That's it. You got it. Simone. She's like the president, I believe.
We're all concerned citizens. We're all residents, okay? Those camera guys have zoom lenses on their camera. Can't they go in the back of the room? Because they're covering everything we need to see on the screen that you guys put up for us to see. And we didn't come here to look at their overheads. If somebody could just ask them either to do it from either side.
Let me go tell that to Tim, who's moderating. See what he can do.
Yes.
Or if they could just move over so that we can, see what you guys are actually saying. I got to know what's going on.
I do on my laptop, and I'm wondering if we can project it.
I don't have a way of getting 2 screens on this.
After this is up, the slide.
Are you going to be done at the paper?
I am going to run there.
I'll be back there too.
Okay. So I just need a way to signal them, like with the light bulbs, but we'll talk.
Unless somebody...
Just stuck it right on Tim.
Yeah, hey Tim, hit it. Move the
You're
camera,
in charge,
Tim.
aren't you? Actually, all he said was, I'll make an announcement. You know the
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Well, we're now past.
I'd say they have
Look
a
at
lot
the.
of people here.
Look, it's like church.
Yeah, well up front, definitely, but you see the side, so.
Yes. Yes.
No, I mean,
They're gonna close the doors, the police, at a certain level, I guess.
I'd say they probably have another 50 or 100 seats left.
the two in the middle, one of them's channel 20. Everybody, you know, it's
Tell you the truth, 30,000
somebody
people in the community.
no matter where they
I
are.
kind of think that there should be a patch on the
That's what.
They can move around. You know, they shouldn't have sat. They're on, yeah, it's true that. What I'm saying is, I can do this, but
Yeah, that's just not me.
How are you, buddy?
John,
Huh?
Yes, John.
do you
Yeah, but I know how to draw a crowd, right?
Is it a 12?
I don't have them with me, no, but I do have, definitely have that information.
The sooner I get them, the sooner we can actually start.
Understood, John, and I will get you, yeah, you know, but tonight, I don't even want to get stopped and have it, you know.
No, best I can, I'll do it.
See, they're passing out. This one.
Have you been to that website?
This one.
I just did it the other day. They have, it's powerful. I mean, every page if you would click on his big picture, his beautiful picture. And just kind of go, ooh. It's a very striking website.
I don't have issues with the citizen. I have issues with some of the consulting companies and lawyers that are pending. I wouldn't even say it's misinformation. I'd say most of it is absolute trash.
And you don't know what to believe. The letter I did. All right. Americans or whatever that one was. It's like, well, you know, it seems well written, but I don't know what the motive is. I really don't know just how much to believe. Environhomes, yeah, that one.
This one's actually pretty good.
It seemed very good.
He goes a little further in his recommendations than the EPA's own recommendations do.
Check, one.
For those of you who are standing, you know, there are empty seats, and people who have empty seats and would like to share it with somebody, maybe put your hand up. We're doing the best we can to try to get the cameras moved. Unfortunately, they're all patched into one central feed, so they minimize the impact as much as possible. So. John. How are you, buddy? I'm all right. How have you been? That's a better question. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm glad that. All right.
Yeah, me too.
No.
Yes. Very easy.
Sorry.
Watch your step. There's flyers everywhere.
Yep. Uh-oh. I'm all right, thanks. Again, for those of you who are standing, there are still a few seats even down here in the front if you want to make your way up this way. Again, people who have empty seats near them, if you want to raise a hand, and people might want to take those, occupy those instead of standing in the back. Good? Okay.
I didn't realize that the insurance.
Thank you so much for helping out. I appreciate it. Oh, it's the same one, yeah.
Representative Abruzzo, if you can hear us, can you raise your hand just to see? Oh, thank you. And then Representative Bernard, I think, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. And then Representative Pafford, there's kind of on the corner there. I think that's you. There you go. Okay. All right, that's much better. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Seminole Ridge High School, and this in our third public forum, public update for the acreage and the issues that you were asked to the Department of Health to bring to your attention and bring to the forefront. So this evening we have a pretty packed agenda, but we actually want to hear from you as well and hopefully get as many of your questions answered as possible. So I don't want to go into long details, but I do want to introduce, or what we will start with, is we do have our state representatives up in Tallahassee who couldn't be with us because of the legislative session and or the committee meetings that are getting ready to start. And just so you know, we have Representative Joe Abruzzo, we have Representative Mark Pafford, and again, Representative Mac Bernard. And then up here on the panel for this evening, each of these people will speak briefly, and then we'll get to your questions. We have Dr. Shairi Turner, Deputy Secretary of Health from the Department of Health and Director of Minority Health for the state of Florida. We have Dr. Sharon Watkins, who is the Senior Environmental Epidemiologist. We have Mr. John O'Malley. He is the Director of Environmental Public Health for the Palm Beach County Health Department. We have Mrs. Mary Jean Yan from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Waste Management. And on the end of the table there, we have Mr. John Williamson. He's the administrator from the Bureau of Radiation, so we can hopefully cover pretty much every area. The one thing I will ask, due to the number of people and the interest of trying to get as many questions answered as possible, we're going to try and limit the question part to 3 minutes or even less. So if you could ask your question in under 3 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated, and we will try to send a reminder. Also, we are recording all of this, so if your question doesn't get answered, we are going to be reviewing those tapes and hopefully be able to get back to you with the answers to those questions, either to post them on the Health Department website, which is pbchd.com. We'll also try to post them on the Department of Environmental Protection's website, as well as the Florida Department of Health website. So as soon as we can, we will review and try to get everybody's questions answered as best we can as time goes on. So now at this time, though, I would like to introduce Representative Joe Abruzzo up in Tallahassee.
Can you all hear us?
Yes,
Great.
have you fine.
Well, first of all, thank you to everybody in the community for coming together for this very important meeting. Senator Ehrenberg will be joining us in a few moments, and us here in Tallahassee is really here to listen to what the other gentlemen and members in the state government have to say regarding what's going on in our community. I'm here to help. We're here to push for more testing and more resources from the government if need be, and that's what we see at this point. I'm joined by Representative Mac Bernard and Representative Mark Pafford, and we're all very concerned, and we're just eager to hear what many of the speakers tonight have to say.
Representative Bernard, would you have anything to say at this time or wish to address the audience with?
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Representative Mac Bernard, and I represent District 84, and a little bit of the acreage is part of the district. And along with Representative Abruzzo, Representative Mark Pafford, what we're here is to listen to the cause of the cancer cluster, and we want to make sure that we get as much testing that is needed, so that way we can address this situation as quickly as possible. And I want to thank everyone that came out tonight, and what we hope is to get some answers.
Thank you, Representative Bernard. And Representative Mark Pafford.
Thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful what technology can do I sit here wondering, certainly with all the advanced technology, why we can't learn more about the cancer cluster in the acreage. I happen to live there for a number of years. Some people may not know that, and obviously I know the area and have great concern for the folks that I know live there and have certainly suffered from cancer and quite frankly are scared. I'm here again with my colleagues and Senator Ehrenberg in a few minutes, not only to learn more, I really want to determine, what actually caused the cancer. If we can do that, we need to literally spend a tremendous amount of time and resource to do that, to leave an area without the cause of such a cluster, to me is something we just can't do. So again, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to listening.
Thank you, Representative Pafford. And now, at this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Shairi Turner, who is the Deputy Secretary of Health.
Good evening. I am the Deputy Secretary for Health at the Department of Health in Tallahassee. I'm also an internist and pediatrician. I supervise among many divisions, one of which is the Division of Environmental Health, as well as the 67 county health departments, Palm Beach County Health Department being one. So I'm here on behalf of our thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your frustration. Thank you for your voice and the passion that you bring on behalf of your children and on behalf of your community. Children. I want to say personally, I'm a mother and I'm a pediatrician. And as I was coming down here, I could only imagine the fear and the frustration that you would have as parents in your community, wondering, is it the water, is it the air, is it the soil? How do I protect my child? How do I protect my home? How do I protect my family? Who is helping me? So I can only say we are sorry. We are sorry for your losses. We are sorry for the loss of your children, for the loss of the property value, for your frustration, for your fear of the unknown. I can only empathize, but in doing so, I say we share your frustration. We know we are the agency that you have looked to for answers, and we want to provide those answers. So your next question is, why has the Department of Health changed direction? What you had heard was that we had stopped testing. The intent of the message was that we had reached the end of our agency's expertise. We realized we were in uncharted territories. There were increased cancer rates and no clear cause. But we are committed to finding the answers, I assure you. So what have we done subsequent to finding that the rates of cancer were higher for brain cancer in the children in your community? We looked to our sister agencies. So thank you to the Department of Environmental Protection for coming down today and working with us. We've looked to our federal partners, the Centers for Disease Control. Next week will come, review our information, review our data, provide their insight. The National Institute of Health, the National Cancer Institute, the Surgeon General has reached out, we have reached out to them, and they have agreed to offer their assistance. They are offering their guidance to us. So with the Department of Environmental Protection, we will be testing, and you'll hear more of this today. this evening, we will be testing the soil and the water of the families with the children who've experienced cancer. The Department of Health is what I'm going to do is give an overview. We have our other subject matter experts to speak to those questions. At the end, if there's any questions that are unanswered based on the presentation, we will be here to answer those questions. The Department of Health is here. We're going to be doing gamma radiation testing. Then we can all regroup and discuss the information and the next steps. And we're here to support your county health department in this mission. So this is a partnership between both the central office, Department of Health, and your county health department. So I have to end with this. This is not a science project. This is not about the money or the staff or the time. There's no cost, there's no price that you can put on the life of a child or on your peace of mind, and we recognize that. We're not going anywhere. We're not abandoning you. We're looking for answers with you. This is uncharted territory for us as well. So the journey into the unknown, we're looking to take together with you. It requires open and honest communication, and we're here to provide that until we reach a resolution. So tonight, all we ask is for your open minds, your open ears, as we talk about what's been done, the next steps, and answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Now, if I may introduce Dr. Sharon Watkins. She's our PhD, our resident senior environmental epidemiologist, been with us on this study since the very beginning, and she will talk a little bit about the population recalculation and some other topics.
Well, I want to reiterate my thanks to the county for having this meeting and to our legislators for being present, and mostly to all of you for taking the time to come tonight. And I hope that we're able to answer some of your questions and to better help you understand this process. I want to reiterate again how very aware we are of how anxious you are and how disruptive and how much uncertainty there has been in this situation. We know that you're fearful of what these results mean, and we're really, in our minds are always the pain and suffering of the families that have been affected. I want to just give you a brief update of what we've been doing. I want to take my time. I don't have very many slides tonight, but I want to make sure that your questions are answered. And we want this process to be as transparent as possible so that you understand what we did and what that means. I have talked to many of you personally, and I hope in that time I've been able to answer some of your questions. You've emailed me, you've called me, I've tried to address some of these. And if you haven't necessarily heard from me personally, sometimes I've forwarded your emails or your questions to some of our experts who are better able to answer them depending what they are. But again, I want to make sure that I take my time and that tonight you take the time to ask the questions, and so that we get through this process together. All right. When I was here a few months ago, we had just finished the level 1, and one of the recommendations that came out of the level 1 study was that we were a little uncertain about our population numbers. And we felt that it would be better if we could get a more on-the-ground estimate of the number of people that lived in the acreage. And so that was part of what the level 2 was, and it involved trying to estimate the numbers of living in the acreage in a number of different ways. So for this process, we looked at 3 different sources. And the first source is the Florida legislator, the Office of Economic and Demographic Research. And this office produces estimates on population at a county level. And so we took those numbers, and they're not at your acreage level, but they're a county level, and they show growth over time. And we took the growth that they estimated for the county, and we assumed that it was consistent even in the acreage. And we estimated your population in the acreage for each year, for each age group, for males and females. And based on that estimate, the growth from 2000 to 2007 was the 29,000, which the census had estimated in 2000, and the growth was to about 31,900 people. So there was some growth based on this data source. Our second data source was the Palm Beach County Planning and Zoning Board. And this is a little more on the ground, feet on the ground, local data. They use school demographic data. They use some other sources of who's moving in, the building, the not building, the empties, all that sort of stuff. And again, we like this because it's more locally based, and it estimated some growth, and then it estimated some downgrowth in recent years. And it also estimated a little bit of change in the age distribution of the population. But using this estimate, we came up with 38,851 people in the acreage currently. And that number was for each year we estimated. We estimated every age group. We estimated males and females. Okay. So then we get to our third source of data, which is Florida Power and Light. And that's based on the number of hookups or meters. And then we take that and look at the average population, the number of people in a house. And we had estimates from Florida Power and Light for a number of years, not just 1 year, but a number of years. And so when you take that estimate of the number of households or hookups and the average number of people in a house, we were able to also get another estimate of the number of people that are in your community. And that estimate came out to 39,800. And again, we used that number to estimate every year between 2000 and 2007, males and females, and every age group. So then we took those new numbers, those new estimates of the population, and we went back and recalculated the pediatric brain cancer rates, which was what our promise was in October when I was with you last. And based on that, I want to say that the increases in your area, it depended on which estimate we used, but the low estimate said there was about an increase of roughly 10% in your community, ranging to the high estimate, which said about 37% in the community. But when we took those estimates and used each of those to recalculate the pediatric brain cancer rate, for each method, the statistic, the number of cases we see in the community versus the number that we would expect still remained elevated. The increase in population here did reduce that statistic. So it wasn't as great as we expected, I mean in the first estimate, but nevertheless, for each one of these methods, cancers were still statistically elevated, the pediatric brain cancers. So what that says is that we were correct in that when we recalculated these population numbers, it did lower that overall risk numbers that we saw. So just to give you an example, we saw 4 cases of pediatric brain cancer in the 2005 to 2007 period, and based on our initial report, we would only expect 1. And when we redid the calculations, we would expect a little more than 1. But nevertheless, this results in an elevated rate. And what that means when we say there's an elevated rate is that's how you get the term it's a cancer cluster, which I realize causes a lot of alarm bells to go off. But a cluster is simply an increase in a specific disease, in this case pediatric brain cancer, in a specific time period, and that's in these recent years, in a specific geographic area, and we looked in the acreage. And there's nothing you know, it's just a definition based on numbers. And if we had had a couple less cases in one year, we may not have found the statistical significance. You know, and I'm standing here talking numbers, but again, these are children, and we do realize that, and we are very aware of that, and I'm aware of that as a mother when I stand up here and say that. But so this is the basis of, we promised that would we recalculate, we'd take a look at your population, make sure that that wasn't what was kind of driving that first report. We felt that the numbers still show an elevation based on our best estimates of the population. So then another thing that we promised in that first report was to interview families. And we have completed the interview of these families. The goal was to look at the demographic and general characteristics. We really are looking for general and commonalities among this group. It's a multi-part questionnaire. It was developed with our federal partners. I mean, we had conversations with the Centers for Disease Control. We had conversations with the Agency for Toxic Disease Substance Registry, ATSDR. And they provided us with some templates of questionnaires they've used in other studies, and we used those and then built upon them. And questions, it was a very long questionnaire, and questions related to residential history, medical history of the child and the family, their child's immunization history, hobbies that occurred in the home, pregnancy history of the mother, nutritional history, occupation of parents, lots and lots of, exposure to pets, and lots of questions. So the Palm Beach County has finished its interview phase, and they are currently analyzing those results. So it's a little premature to say that the phase 2 is complete, but and when the results are done with this phase, the results will be shared with the community. Now the next slide is a little bit of a timeline, and I hope you can all see this. This is basically what we are analyzing. And so you can see that this represents the number of cases in your community from 1994 to 2008. In 2008, there are 4 cases on the board there, and then you see again that there are 4 cases in 2005. You see that there are cases in 2004, and then not any cases prior to that. We go back to 1999 and 2000. I'm not sure if you all can see it, but the types of cancers are different. There are specific different types of pediatric brain cancers, and a few of them are represented more than once, but it's not a clustering of a specific type of pediatric brain cancer. And when we say that we observe a cluster in recent years, you can see that if I bracket the years 2004 to 2007 or 2005 to 2007, that would encompass more cases than you're seeing perhaps if you went from 2001 to 2003. There would not be a cluster had we only looked at that time period. And so part of the process is that we're dealing with small numbers, and that makes analysis more difficult and interpretation more difficult. Now, we chose to interview, a lot of the analysis was done in the more recent time period, but the Palm Beach County Health Department chose to analyze and interview all the cases that they could that appeared from 1994 to 2008. And I think that was a great decision, and it meant that they had more information on as many pediatric cancer cases, brain cancer cases, as they possibly could. So I understand that you hear 6 cases, 12 cases, 13 cases, 4 cases, and it might be a little confusing. And so the Palm Beach County Health Department thought that putting up this particular slide with a timeline of diagnosis might be helpful in understanding where the 12 or 13 cases comes versus where the 4 cases or 6 cases. It's just a visual representation for you of what was analyzed. I think Dr. Turner spoke about next steps, and I want to emphasize that we've already started those steps. The CDC has been reached out to. They've looked at our analysis all along. We've been in partnership with them all along. I've been present at some very frank, very candid conversations that occurred last week with the CDC. And in addition, the other partners have been reached out by our Surgeon General. So again, what's coming in the next few months is discussions with our federal partners, what testing's recommended at that point, and results from the interview. And there's a lot of information being provided by my other partners, so I'm going to cut my talk here. We'll have questions.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. I don't know if you noticed up on the screen, but it looks like Senator Dave Ehrenberg has joined our panel up in Tallahassee. Senator, if you could. There you go. Thank you. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I represent the communities of Deer Run and White Fences and Fox Trail, but I've been in office now for 8 years, so I'm the senior member of the delegation. And I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I know it's a rainy night in Palm Beach County, and my heart goes out to the people out there. There's 843 people in the auditorium tonight, but there are also, I hear there are a couple hundred people outside who could not get in, and it's raining, and I wonder if someone can tell them that this is also, I believe, being simulcast on Channel 20. I just hate to have anyone miss out on this or be stuck in the rain outside. So maybe someone can go tell them there's a way for them to get the information that we're getting inside here tonight. I want to thank Representative Joseph Abruzzo. He has worked closely with me to get the initial letter, to get the testing started at the state level. And I'm glad we've reached the point where the fears of the people in the acreage in our communities are now, they're realized, or they're recognized, actually, because there has been a lot of concern of elevated cancer, and yet for months we have heard, no, it's in our minds. Well, it's not in our minds. This is reality. And I'm really glad that we're able to get to this stage where we have testing, and thank you, Dr. Watkins, for what you said about testing, because I share the concerns of the people there that this is more than just cell phones and diet soda. This is obviously an environmental cause. More testing is needed. I've said too much because I want to be here to listen rather than speak. But just I want you to know that even though we're not here tonight in person, we're going to be paying attention to everything that you all say. And thank you, Representative Mac Bernard and Representative Mark Pafford. The other person you can't see here is Todd Von Laren. He's the Legislative Affairs Director for Palm Beach County. He's your paid representative from the county up here in Tallahassee. And he's not on camera, but he's taking notes as well. So with that, thank you for being here. I hope that we can get a resolution to this for the safety of the people of the acreage.
Thank you, Senator Ehrenberg. And now I'd like at this time to introduce Mr. John O'Malley. He's the Director of our Environmental Public Health Section here at the Palm Beach County Health Department. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about the testing that we did do in the interview families with regard to the radon.
Good evening. When we moved to the second phase, Palm Beach County's jurisdiction was to begin to interview the affected families. That process was very extensive. Along with that, we, as public health officials, had requested that we would ask and offer for radon testing in those homes. Now, the first question that we ask is, why did we do that? Radon is a radioactive gas that is linked to lung cancer. The reason that we were offering this test, this analysis, was one, it's good public health practice. It's something that we recommend every home be done. We're approaching this with leaving no stone unturned. And I would rather stand here before you and defend what we did test than what we failed to test.
How many houses did you test?
How many houses did you test? That's right.
5 houses?
Please let me try to finish the presentation, and we will get to your questions, I promise. Okay. We did test the affected homes. It was voluntary. We did 11 homes. I'm here tonight to explain the reasoning, what radon is, explain the results that we got, and also explain to you that this is something that's very simple that can be done at anyone's home for a very, very minimal price, and it assures you that there's no radon gas in your home.
Who sold us the property?
Thank you. Thank you.
Who collected the taxes from us?
Okay, radon is generated from uranium-226 and 228 as it decays. It is a gas that's formed in rock, soil, and in water. The concern with the radon is that there is vapor pressure, soil vapor pressure, beneath your concrete slab. The overburden of your home compresses the soil and creates a pressure under the home. Any cracks in the concrete pad allows for radon to enter the home. Okay? So with this simple test that we've done, we were able to determine whether there is a significant presence of radon in the homes. Okay, this is the results of the testing. There are 2 canisters placed 4 inches apart in usually the bedrooms. They were placed by a certified radon specialist and a certified radon technician. They're placed in the home, and the house has to be prepared ahead of time. That means in closed conditions. So at least 12 hours before we place the canisters, the home is closed except for entry and exit. The windows are kept shut, and the fans are turned off. The recommended time is at least 48 hours for the test. We did it for approximately 4 days in the homes. Okay, there were 11 homes tested, and what you see is 22 canister devices and their readings. Okay, this is my analysis of the data. These 2 canisters represent 1 home. So the top value is a 0.8, and the second device was a 2. The average was 1.4 for that home. The general average for all homes tested was 1.695. EPA sets the action level, the standard action level, at 4 picocuries per liter. Okay? So this is the analysis that we have so far. all of these homes are well below the action level set by EPA. So I did want to report to you as soon as possible. The data that we collect is public information. We will post the data, and we will give you the interpretation of what we have as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Just as a reminder, if you have questions, we are going to address those as soon as our speakers finish with the information that we have to present this evening. So as soon as we can, we will get to the questions. So if you could just help us and let us complete what we can present to you, and then hopefully answer any additional questions you may have. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. John Williamson. John is our administrator from the Bureau of Radiation. Oh, I'm sorry. Time out. Jumping the gun on you a little bit. Mary Jean Yan. Mary Jean is the director from the Division of Waste Management from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. She has just a very brief announcement or conversation with you, and then we will obviously get into John's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Boy, that was really, I almost got away with not having to talk. That was good. As Tim said, I'm Mary Jean Yan. I'm from DEP in Tallahassee, from the Division of Waste Management. The way most of you know of us is the site investigation section that was down in the acreage this past summer in August, doing some sampling and some testing then. And the idea behind that was that we were trying to make sure, as everything got started with Department of Health, that we could come in and do some preliminary assessment just to make sure, to investigate the possibility that there were any kind of hazards that might be harming or threatening the drinking water in the community. We wanted to put that fear to rest as the Department of Health got going on their investigations. I didn't think that was going to work. Tim had a slide for me up here of kind of how we went about this. The idea was never to try to do each and every home that was out there. We tried to design kind of a broad approach of a grid sampling, if you will. 36 square mile area, divided it into 6 zones. We sent teams of samplers into each zone to test roughly 5 to 10 sites within those zones to get us 49 wells at private residences. And the idea being that that would give us a snapshot of the area. We analyzed for over 200 parameters just to make sure that we're akin to what one might find for industrial or agricultural uses either now or in the past. And when all was said and done, we had good results. We came back, we were able October 1 to go final with our report, submit it to the Department of Health, and to say that the results of our report that showed there was no indication of these hazards. So that was the past. What I'm here tonight is to let you know, as the Department of Health also goes forward, that we're there, right there with them to help support them. And we're going to do another level of testing that will focus initially on the homes and the people that have been this focused study with the Department of Health. So that means those 12 cases of cancers that they've identified. As Dr. Turner and Dr. Watkins have both said, each of our agencies is reaching out to federal partners on this. I've been in close contact with the Environmental Protection Agency. They have pledged their willingness to work with us, to be involved in whatever extent we can find for them to help us. And our starting point, and I'm not saying it's our ending point, but our starting point will be to sit down with both Department of Health and also with the federal partners. In the case of DOH, it'll be the Center for Disease Control, whoever they want at the table, and we'll have EPA plugged in, and to figure out exactly how to go about this. When we sampled in August, all we did was groundwater, okay? When we come for this next level, we will get more detailed. We will actually do soil sampling as well as groundwater, and in addition to testing water as it goes into the house, we'd like to be able to work it out so that we're testing water that's coming out of that treatment system, which is what people are actually drinking. So it's a whole nother level of detail. It's starting on a smaller scale, but it's just a starting point. That's the main message that I've got for you tonight. And my presentation is very brief on that account, but I'm certainly here all evening to answer the questions as they arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jean. Sorry, I almost missed you for a minute there, but now I would like to introduce Mr. John Williamson. He's our administrator from the Bureau of Radiation, and on top of his presentation, he's got a couple other things, so we do have a table to set up in conjunction with this. It'll take just a second, I promise. So, John?
Good evening. I work out of the Orlando office of the Bureau of Radiation Control. I'm the administrator of the Environmental Radiation Section. I've been working in that location since 1992. And I've got a little demonstration I'll do after the slideshow, but as a show of hands, how many people here think that you live in an environment free of radiation?
Apparently not.
Radiation is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Okay? The question is how much of it. And because the Bureau of Radiation Control is really newcomers into this project, I'd like to go over just a few little brief things on radiation and what we're looking for. What we're looking for and what we'd like to work with you to try and sample in the future. The electromagnetic spectrum. Radiation is really just a part of all the other things you see, light, radio waves. It just happens that radiation, ionizing radiation, alphas, betas, and gammas, sits at the very high energy end of it. And that high energy is what causes issues. Because it ionizes, it knocks the electron off of atoms. And when the electron gets knocked off of atoms, it can do a couple of things, and none of them are particularly good. It can cause free radical formation. Free radicals are known to cause cancer. It can have direct or indirect effects. What's the effect? No matter whether you're looking at direct or indirect, it's DNA damage. Talk about DNA damage, you're starting to talk about, long-term risk of cancer. We've talked an awful lot about the various types of radiation. Most people, they hear it, but they don't really get a chance to have it demonstrated what it really is. Alpha radiation. An alpha radiation is a particle, okay? It's a big, heavy particle. The important thing to get out of it is that it can be easily stopped. It can be stopped by a piece of paper. And I'm going to do a demonstration with alpha radiation that will show you that. And, any of you who want me to do this demonstration elsewhere, all you have to do is give me a call. We travel throughout the state. We train your firefighters. We train policemen in how to handle radiation incidents all the time. Beta particle. It's similar to an electron. It's not as massive as an alpha particle. It can be stopped by a sheet of plexiglass or a thin piece of metal. For the most part, both alphas and betas are trapped outside your body. The outer layers of skin can even slow down and stop betas. So why are we worried about alphas and betas? If you ingest them or if you inhale them. That's where you have the issues there. Gamma radiation. X-rays, gamma radiation. X-rays and gamma radiation are really the same thing. It's just X-rays come from outside of the nucleus, gamma rays come from inside the nucleus. It's like a very high energy radio wave, okay? That high energy wave gets into your body. and it does free radical formation, knocks the electron off your off of cells, causes free radicals, long-term effects can cause cancer. Gamma rays can be shielded by lead, concrete, water. Can't shield them with paper, you can't shield them with plexiglass. A simple form of a radioactive atom. X-rays, as I indicated, come off of the outer shell. Alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma rays come out of the nucleus. I mentioned what stops them. Alpha rays can be stopped by a sheet of paper, beta by aluminum or thick layers of plexiglass. Gamma rays takes concrete, steel, lead, water. What does all this really mean in the end? Why does the EPA have levels for your drinking water? Why do they recommend levels for the total exposure to gamma radiation? It's all based on risk. The long-term risk of developing additional cancers in a population. They start by looking at how much of the radiation you're going to intake. They go through some very complex biokinetic models. They figure out how much of that activity actually interacts within the body. They use dose models to actually determine how much radiation dose your body is getting. Then they look at risk models, which are based on health effect studies, predominantly uranium miners and the atomic bomb survivors. And they come up with a risk coefficient, i.e., what is the risk from ingesting or inhaling this much radiation over time? We start talking about the levels we look at in water. And the basic values that we came back 1976, the original MCLs for radiation in water. And most of it is going to be geared towards alpha radiation because alpha radiation is a massive particle. When it gets inside you, it causes damage. When it's outside you, it can be stopped by a layer of skin or a piece of paper. You have to ingest it. But when it gets inside, it can cause some real issues. And it comes down to basically 5 picocuries per liter of radium-226 and 228 combined. 5 picocuries is simply a measurement of how much radiation is in that water. When you send your water off to be tested, it'll come back and they will tell you you have 5 picocuries or 2 picocuries per liter. You don't actually have to know what it is, you have to know the value. If it's greater than 5, you need to make sure that you do something for your water treatment system. If it's less than 5, well, you don't, but you test for the most likely things. When you have your water tested for radiation, there are specific parameters that the EPA recommends that you have tested for. The main thing that's going to cause an issue with radiation in drinking water is alpha radiation. They test for alpha, and then if the alpha is above 15, then they go back and they start looking at radium-226 and 228. Questions later, please. Mention alpha, greater than 15, same type of issues. Treatment would be required for the water. Recommended actually for private wells. Betas is based on a dose rate 4 millirem per year. Betas in drinking water, extremely rare. They almost have to come from a man-made source, nuclear power plants. Yeah, but the St. Lucie power plant is well tested, well short of here. That's not a nuclear power plant. Yeah, but that's not radiation. That's something else. That's once again, not radiation. Where do we really get these kind of values? Okay, we can go out and we can test. I'm going to give you just a couple of little, these are values out of the latest report from the NCRP, which is a group that looks at radiation protection in the United States. They wrote a report last year called Radiation Exposure to the United States, okay? And this is really a very interesting thing because we live in Florida. And I want you to notice that Florida, especially along the Gulf Coast areas, has the lowest average gamma exposure of anywhere in the United States. I'm not saying that your area doesn't have issues, but in general, when they look at measurements, because we live at very low altitude, we have very low levels of cosmic radiation. Estimated radon levels in indoor homes. Florida, once again, tends to have very, very low estimated levels of radon in your indoor home. This value corresponds to 1 picocurie per liter. This is 2 picocuries per liter. This is 3. This is 4, which is the action level is 4 picocuries per liter and above. And you see that only some small areas of Florida up along the Big Bend area. That's right. That has to do with the type of land around there, which has phosphate. Gamma ray absorbed dose, this is actually measuring the background radiation. As you walk outside with an instrument like this, this is the type of readings that you're going to see. And you notice Florida, once again, tends to have very low average readings for gamma radiation. The highest areas are along the Rocky Mountain Ridge because they have a lot of hard rocks that have uranium content in the ores. I mentioned the NCRP report 160. It's sort of interesting in that since 1980, which was the last time they did this report, there's a almost doubling of the average radiation dose that people in the United States get. And almost 100% of that doubling is due to medical. Medical now makes up almost 50% of the radiation dose that Americans get on average. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us what the median dose is. It's the average, and when you use the average, you get all the people who have to have cancer treatments, and they kind of skew what the average may be for a median person who doesn't have to have all of those. But it is kind of interesting is that when we look at the values that we can control, the medical, there's still about 50% of it that's in other background, which is down here it mentions the other background, internal, space and terrestrial. Depending on where we live, how often we fly, for every hour that you fly, you're getting about 0.5 to 1 millirem of dose. If you sleep next to somebody in the same bed, because we all have internal potassium 40 in us, you're actually getting twice the exposure you normally would because you're getting your own plus the person next to you. There's a lot of interesting things on radiation. Now, I'm not ready for questions yet. I have a real short demo that I'm going to run through.
Oh.
Does anybody in here have high blood pressure?
We do now.
Raise your hand. Does anybody recognize this? Salt. No salt. Your physicians tell you if you have high blood pressure, you don't want to use sodium anymore. You want to go to a potassium-based salt. Well, you know, that's really interesting because you're right, water softeners too. 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1% of all potassium is radioactive potassium 40. The half-life is like 10 billion years, okay? So the more potassium you take in, the more radiation you're taking in. There's about 1,400 picocuries of potassium in every liter of milk. You like drinking milk? There's potassium in bananas. Remember they tell you take potassium and eat your bananas, it'll stop you from cramping? It's about 4 times your background.
What was the background?
Background is less than 50 counts a minute. That's actually about 200 counts a minute. How about this? Anybody recognize what this is? It's a lantern mantle. The older Coleman lantern mantles, they put thorium, natural thorium, in lantern mantles because it makes them glow. It just so happens that all thorium is also radioactive.
John? This is Representative Abruzzo. We're curious to know.
Believe me, I'll move on. This is for your information, okay?
I understand. We are curious to know if we can move to the program and we hear from our constituents.
I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to show you the things that are out here.
John. Mr. Williamson. We are curious to know if we can move on to the segment of the show where we hear from our constituents, or the program where we
Yes, sir. I just have one more thing I want to show. It'll take about 10 seconds.
It's okay, you'll be first. Just sit down.
Just one more thing, all right?
Mr. Williamson?
It's all right.
Mr. Williamson.
It's okay.
Thank you for your presentation. The legislators here in Tallahassee were very concerned, and we want to hear from the constituents.
I understand, sir. I'm finished.
We're eager to hear the question and answer portion of the program.
I'm willing to take questions for the radiation aspects of it.
The high levels. We know there's low levels. What about the high levels of radiation? He's trying to explain why. In our water. In our water. Why don't you address that? We know salt's not good for us. We don't need
Okay. The radiation in the water, there was, I think, 49 wells, 49 wells tested. They were trying to do a grid sampling to try and get a good idea of what the radiation would be across the entire complex. They did test. They found high radium content in some of the waters. They found levels, I believe, as high as 24 picocuries per liter of radium, radium-226. Part around the.
All right, so Tim's gonna jump in. It's okay. He's gonna.
Yeah.
Ted's.
All right, I'm going to ask John to take a seat with the rest of our panel, and then we are going to invite. You can ask your questions. He's not running away. We're going to answer those, but we'd like to do it in as orderly a fashion as we possibly can. But to begin this question session, there are two people who have received a number of questions from their constituents in their growths, and that's or their area, and that's Michelle Damone, for President of the Indian Trails Improvement District, and Commissioner Jess Santa Maria. So if I could have you two address the questions that you have first to get the ball rolling. Commissioner, do you have, or Michelle?
Why are we letting them talk? They thought we were full of crap 6 months ago.
Pardon me?
You know for a fact, Michelle. You were against us the whole time.
Michelle.
Show your door, Michelle.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I'll speak first, thank you.
Okay.
On behalf of the constituents here in the acreage, the Indian Trail Improvement District, all 5 board of supervisors are here tonight. The majority of us, actually 4 out of 5 of us, have children, and they're all under the age of 18. We live out here, I have to live out here. In order to represent the Indian Trail Improvement District, you have to reside here, and I reside here for the last 13 years. And I represent all people of the acreage. So when there's a certain group of people who feel one extreme and then there's another group of people who feel the other extreme, it is my task to find that middle ground and that job to represent everybody. And I think the commonality of all acreage residents is that we want answers. I waited diligently and patiently, like everybody else did, to hear from the state health department on whether there was a cancer cluster or not. I did not want to jump to conclusions. I wanted to wait. We got that information on February 1st. But unfortunately, I don't think the community got straight answers or solid answers. I think they were left open-ended, and we only got half the answers. And therefore, I've heard through emails, logs, phone calls, and the other Board of Supervisors heard from our community too. So we had I have questions that I wanted to ask the panel on behalf of the community. Commissioner Santa Maria has a direct letter from the Indian Trail Improvement District Board of Supervisors and the Board of County Commissions that he wants to read it for the record. Some of the questions I have on here you've answered this evening, specifically was the legal definition of a cancer cluster. Because it was interesting to see some of Dr. Alonzo's information that she distributed out in print didn't reference a cancer cluster. And then in the paper, in the Palm Beach Post, when she did her visual interview, she referenced cancer cluster. So tonight you gave us a legal description of a cancer cluster. The other thing is that there was an email written on 2/3 from Mr. O'Connor. It was written by Dr. Watkins, and it reads, "I think the phrase cancer cluster produces great anxiety, and I hope that this explanation helps. Environmental sampling to date, results that I'm aware of, do not show any widespread environmental contaminant in your area. Does the Florida Department of Health plan on filing a legal instrument in our court system declaring the acreage a cancer cluster?" That was one of the questions I had. Since Dr. Alonzo identified the acreage a cancer cluster on Monday, February 1st, does the terminology, the acreage, include all units within the Indian Trail Improvement District known as the acreage, or is there a specific geographical area the cluster is contained within the acreage? And that is very important. On February 3rd, 2010, the Palm Beach Post, Dr. Alonzo admits that the significantly elevated pediatric cancer cluster had not been compared to any other community in Palm Beach County or South Florida. And Dr. Watkins' email on February 3rd states, pediatric brain cancer is being on the rise, both nationally and internationally. Then why didn't the Florida Department of Health not take the time to calculate community comparables or review cancer diagnostic statistics within our area versus nationality? On Monday, February 1st.
Michelle, can they address those questions?
Let me finish and then please address. Let me finish because I represent 50,000 people. I disagree with your population. On Monday, February 1st, 2010, press conference with Dr. Alonzo, she states that they didn't plan any further testing, but to focus on awareness in childhood brain cancer. Could someone please state for the record, and I heard it this evening, that phase 2 will be completed? I did hear that tonight. I just want to hear you basically say amen, because further testing is important to this community. I reviewed the 3 different methodologies used to determine the population to be approximately 39,000. I was pleased to see that you clarified that did go up to 2007, because build out, our boom was 2005, 2007. So I wanted to make sure that the population calculations reflected accurately. I actually think you did a good job with that to the best of your ability. Dr. Watkins further states in her February 3rd email, although the numbers do not show a statistically elevated rate of pediatric cancer, particularly among female children, although the numbers do show, of pediatric cancers, particularly among female children. Of radon or radiant contamination. Have any of these homes been tested for radon or radium? You answered that this evening. I'd like to see that you're expanding that. If so, where were any of the results of water quality, radon nuclei group? You answered that this evening. Does radon or radium cause brain cancer? I heard lung cancer and I heard bone cancer tonight, but I want to know if it causes brain cancer or if it causes a brain tumor. And speaking of research, is the family research completed? You answered that this evening. If not, why did the Florida Health Department designate our community as a cluster prior to the research being completed? I also want everyone to know here, and it's very important to know this, that we are not incorporated, we are not a municipality. Indian Trail Improvement District is a limited government. We only provide roads, drainage, parks, and a limited utilities. We honestly are restricted on how much we can do for you with this. We were left out. There was no FYI to us or to the Palm Beach County or your local government on the information they were providing on February 1st. That's how limited we are. But we realize what a passionate community this is. How many of us have volunteered, PTA, coaching, you name it. So we are not a tight community. So all 5 Board of Supervisors are community leaders, and that's why we have put our foot in the door. We stuck our nose where it belongs, because we live here too, and we represent you, and we will continue to be active. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Watkins, I think, would you like to begin, and then maybe Dr. Turner would have.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. There were a lot of questions, so I hope I get to answer all of them. I want to start with the first one, which was the definition of a cluster and some concerns about a legal definition. Cancer cluster is a statistical term or an epidemiological term, and I'm not aware of a legal definition of that or legal recourse on that, but I'm not an attorney, and we are writing that question down to take to our attorneys. I can't answer that kind of legal issue. More importantly, you asked a question, is there a specific geographic area the cluster is contained within the acreage? The answer is no. You asked if pediatric brain cancers are on the rise nationally and internationally, why we didn't take the time to do more comparison. And I think that what we did do in the Level 1 report, and it was long and it was a little lengthy and a lot of tables in it, but we did compare your community to the county. We compared your community to the state. And then we also actually compared the zip code areas as well. So we did do some comparisons, and these are standard type of comparisons done in this sort of analysis. So I'm not sure that was clear in the first report. I hope it was, but I think we did handle that.
Excuse me, but that's exactly why there's misinformation out there, because Dr. Alonso was quoted in the Palm Beach Post as saying that there was no comparables done in this county or in South Florida, and that is why you have a very angry crowd in this room this evening, because it's constant misinformation.
Well, I can't address interviews that I wasn't present at. I can just tell you that yes, pediatric brain cancer is on the rise nationally and internationally, that's of a concern of researchers, universities, our National Cancer Institute, NIH, you know, and those kind of statistics are happening and those kind of studies are happening at a national and international level. But what concerns you is what's happening here. And so I didn't compare you to rates in China. We compared rates to...
Now you're just being funny. You
no,
could have
I mean,
compared it to other communities within Palm Beach County, and you could have done some comparisons within South Florida.
We chose the best comparison, which is used standardly, which is we looked at the whole zip code. We compared the acreage to what was happening in the 3 big zip codes. We compared the acreage to what was happening in the county without the acreage, and we compared the acreage to what was happening in Florida in general, which is a very big state. And so, I mean, you may not be happy with all most investigations of cancer are handled. Moving on to another question, we did talk, or we had a slide on the number of different types of cancers, pediatric brain cancers, and there were a number of them. And your question, is a cluster a single type of cancer? Well, Yeah, typically a cancer cluster is defined by a very specific kind of cancer. But unfortunately, we're in a gray area of science, and brain cancers, because they are very rare, they frequently, in research and in the literature, are lumped together for analysis, and that's how a lot of statistics are handled at this. So we chose to use that definition, and of course that's something we're discussing with our federal partners as well.
So the cancer cluster is not a single cancer? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said that normally when you're looking at clusters, you're looking at a very specific type of cancer. Like for instance, you're looking at a very specific type of bone cancer. And in this case, the science is a little gray because this particular type of cancer is so rare. So often in the literature, in fact, most often in the literature, pediatric brain cancers are lumped together, and we did that in this situation. Again, this is a question we asked and are asking with our federal partners, and we'll continue to work with them on that. Your question, does radon or radium cause brain cancer? The literature does not support that at this time, that they're not linked. I think I got them all.
Thank you. Thank you for answering those questions. I don't want to.
No. You ready? All right. I just
for a second.
Wait a minute. Wait. I had committed Commissioner Santa Maria. He again, just like Ms. Damone, represents 50,000. Commissioner Santa Maria represents probably 250,000. So I will give him his few moments. I'm trying to keep this in order. Thank you very much. And if the lady who is behind him is willing to yield to him, I'm okay with that. But I'm going back and staying with what we committed to at the beginning. Thank you.
That's exactly what it's called.
Yeah, good evening. You know, although I don't live in the acreage, having lived in the Western communities for 36 years, I consider myself your neighbor and friend. I have heard you loud and clear. I've attended all the meetings over the last 6 months. So the message is loud and clear. Your government has not done enough. It is time for us to have a more aggressive and more decisive action. And therefore, Michelle Damone, representing Indian Trails, and myself, representing District 6, decided yesterday to send a letter to the governor today to ask him to take over and give us decisive action. This is the letter we sent the governor today. The Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners and Indian Trail Improvement District are concerned about the Florida Department of Health's position on the acreage cancer cluster, reported in the media February 1st, 2010. At the minimum, the information released by the Palm Beach County Division of the Florida Department of Health lacked sufficient details. It is critical that unanswered questions be addressed and assistance offered immediately. It is now imperative to move forward with focused intergovernmental cooperation and coordination, and that is the purpose of this letter. On behalf of the acreage residents, the Indian Trail Improvement District Board President Michelle Damone and District Commissioner Jess Santa Maria of Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners have prepared for immediate scientific and financial assistance from the state. We join the many other elected officials who have contacted you, such as U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, State Representative Carl Domino, Joseph Abruzzo, Mark Pafford, and Kevin Rader, requesting that you provide leadership to assure that the specific actions below, which are critically important to our residents, occur. Number one, more research must be conducted by the appropriate state agencies to determine or rule out the causes of this situation. While individual water wells may not ultimately prove to be at fault, we request that your office actively pursue financial assistance for our residents to provide public water distribution through a combination of federal and state funding. Just as a quick aside, you know, if this county and this state can spend hundreds of millions of dollars for Scripps and Max Planck, we certainly can put serious money for this effort. We must establish a community outreach and information program with frequent updates so that the public is informed. Intergovernmental communication is key to serving our residents. We would ask that the Board of County Commissioners and Indian Trail Improvement District receive timely updates with comprehensive information so that we can better serve our constituents. We look forward to your positive consideration and respectively request your assistance in creating a forceful plan of action. Thank you.
I told him I didn't care.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Santamaria. And I think Dr. Turner will be happy to not only, I know the letter was delivered, but I know Dr. Turner will personally help take that message back to the governor, who's made those commitments to us to help and do whatever it takes to hopefully find some answers for all of you here. So again, thank you, Commissioner Santamaria. Thank you, Dr. Turner. Would you like to say?
I hope in the presentation everyone heard us reinforce again that the testing is going to continue with initially with the families that have been impacted by children who have had cancer, and then as additional information comes in, we look to broaden. We have committed on behalf of the Surgeon General, on behalf of the governor. You've heard the governor state himself. He is fully in support of further investigation, further testing. We are committed to doing that. We absolutely understand the frustration. We hear you. We truly do hear you. We are doing everything we can. We've looked to.
All right, if we could please, thank you.
We're here, we are here to answer your questions. We are not taking this lightly. I know there's been a disconnect between us and you and the communication around this issue, but I can't stress anymore that the governor is in communication and talks to the Surgeon General. The Surgeon General is very closely, weekly we have calls with all representatives throughout the state to make sure that we're moving forward, that we're supporting our county health department, that we're supporting you all.
Thank you. Gentleman over here to my left, your right as you're looking at me, sorry.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Buxbaum. I'm a radiation oncologist. I'm a pediatric subspecialist. I don't live in the acreage, but I see, in my career, hundreds of kids with brain tumors. First thing as a doctor looking at this group is everyone in the acreage has to work together to get through this. Within my exposures to the patients in this population, try not to isolate each other. There are going to be some families that get afflicted and some families that don't, and I encourage everyone to try to stick together and try to work with each other to help each other through this time. In the meantime, with the statistics in the epidemiological work, There were two clusters in my mind of histologies that were shown to you. There's ependymomas, and there were different grades of glioma. Juvenile pilocytics, glioblastomas, astrocytomas. These are all along one stream of genetic tumor, if you will, whereas the ependymomas are slightly separate. What's unusual to me as a physician, as a brain tumor specialist, is the most common pediatric brain tumor, which is typically seen, is a medulloblastoma, which is absent. So there's some interesting stuff there. It's rare to see a kid with a glioblastoma. They're much more rare than a medullo, and it's just unusual. That doesn't mean with small numbers, and the epidemiologist will appreciate me saying this, with small numbers you have to be careful. The one thing everyone in the crowd has to understand is cancer is an inherently frustrating business. Everyone who does it for a living is frustrated because it's hard to cure. When you try to cure people, you leave people with side effects. There's a large community of experts in the area that are here to help everyone once the problem exists. I'm not an expert with epidemiology. I'm not a government expert. I feel for everyone in the room. What I'm here for is to tell you that there are medical experts in the county that are here to help you. We're going to do everything we can to help you guys, and I don't want anyone in the room to feel like they're left alone without someone to talk to. In the medical community, there's a lot of stress here, okay, and just move forward. There are people that do this for a living that see this stuff all the time. A glioblastoma for me is a normal thing to treat. I just want to put that in perspective. It's not a fun thing to treat, but for me, it's what I do day in, day out. So if anyone has problems or has issues, find someone who's an expert, talk to them, get some help, and stick together so that the community doesn't fall apart. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Doc. Gentleman over here.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
You're welcome.
My name is Greg Dunsford. A group of us is generally considered the starters of all this stuff. I'd like to take a few minutes basically to thank a couple people who have helped us get to this point, and that's State Rep Joseph Abruzzo. He has been there since day one. He's not in my district, but I'd vote for him for president at this point. I'm not kidding. Anyway, Senator Ehrenberg, who was brought in shortly after Senator Nelson's office, which my dad would hit me in the back of the head with a hatchet because he's a Republican. But anyway, I wanted a couple different things in regards to there's not enough of a certain type of cancer, but you're going to throw everything into a cancer cluster, I'm guessing. Well, I've got a number for you. 12. Glioblastoma multiformes in the acreage. Okay? That's how many we have in our database. Okay? And I think the misconception here is this is not pediatric only. We have roughly 5 times the amount of adults being stricken with brain cancer as we do pediatrics. And my son is one who was stricken with a brain tumor, okay? 12 glioblastomas is what in our database. And you guys will come back with the cancer registry and say, well, if it's not on here, we don't know. Well, I'm sure most of us would be willing to show the scars if you need the proof that they've had something removed from their head. 12 glioblastoma multiforms, would that support a population of what? 2 million? Roughly? One person per 100,000 on a glioblastoma. We'll go conservative. Our community is not 1.2 mil.
How about we pull the charts back up?
Okay. You bored us with the charts. We appreciate the charts. We appreciate it. And you're going to have to forgive me. We're very passionate people out here. We like our land and we like our water too. Unfortunately, that looks like we like the guns too. No, a lot of people hunt. Anyway, I would encourage you to continue whatever you're doing, whether it's going to be federal, whether it's going to be local, whether it's going to be state. It doesn't matter at this point. Okay? These people need answers, and I will go over my line for about 2 seconds. I implore you people, you are our neighbors, okay? I ask you, though, to be as civil as you possibly can here tonight. These people, they don't live here, they don't know, okay? But please, let's handle this let's show them the civility that I know that we all have. I know we're angry, and we have a good right to be angry. You know, we've had certain people say some really dumb things to us in the media. But other than that, let's help them find the answers. Let's do whatever we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Just very briefly, too, just a reminder, this is being taped for Channel 20. That's the county television station. It will air in its entirety tomorrow night, beginning at 6 o'clock, and it will also be posted on Channel 20 or the county website, so you'll be able to look at it in its entirety beginning tomorrow. Like I said, all of this is being documented by them, and it's going to be available to you. So I'm sorry to take your, I didn't take your 3 minutes, I promise.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Kathy. I am a radiation oncology nurse. I also am a mother, and I live out in the acreage. I look around, and I know some of these people because they're my patients, which really bothers me when we have to treat children, when I have 2 children. God bless you, Jesse. God bless you. The people that are sticking up for us, that really have voices that we don't, because I'm nervous as hell. I brought Dr. Buxbaum with me for answers so that he can help my community, because people are calling me left and right. Should we move? What should we do? Is my kid okay? What do I look for? That's what we want. We want answers to what do we look for? What can we do as a community to get rid of this? What can we do? I don't care about financial. Money means nothing at this point because my house is worth nothing. I don't care. My children's lives are worth a lot more than any house that I have or anyone else has. Like Jesse said, and Diane, you guys, Michelle, excuse me, you guys hit it. You said what we need is answers. We need to communicate with each other. You can call me. If I have the answer, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, don't worry. Or you call Dr. Buxbaum because he's fantastic. He will help us. I'm dead serious. He will help us. Thank you. God bless you, and no disrespect. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman to my right.
Good evening. My name is Marty Palermo. I live basically about a quarter mile away from the Dunsfords. And last year, my daughter was stricken with thyroid cancer. Okay? Does the panel know there's other types of cancer out there that's affecting kids? Are they looking into this?
Right, thank you. That was my question.
Are you aware? Are you looking into this for us? There are other types. There's leukemia. I know a couple of kids that were stricken with leukemia. After our town hall meeting a couple months ago, I had a lady come up to me, young lady in her 20s, also thyroid cancer, just moved away from the acreage. Since then, I've had 3 phone calls. My family's had 3 phone calls. Thyroid cancer, people that have moved away from the acreage. What's going on out there? If his numbers weren't enough, how about all these other numbers with the thyroid, with the leukemia?
Well,
Doug.
When my daughter had surgery, the oncologist nurse said, "I've never seen a pediatric with thyroid cancer," because normally it strikes younger women in their 20s. Okay? Now, my daughter's was found by a fluke. Her pediatrician didn't find it a week earlier, but her allergist found it, and it was just a nodule. And through the test, it came out as papillary carcinoma. So there's stuff out there, and I just want everybody to be aware. You guys are my neighbors. There's other cancers out there than just the brain tumors and the brain cancers.
Thank you very much. I think very briefly, Dr. Turner or Dr. Watkins, would you like to expound if you're going to look, or how we're going to look for more, if we are, or what's going on with that?
I can say that when we looked in the first report, we looked at all pediatric cancers, and we didn't see elevation in the category of all cancers for kids. We just saw it for pediatric brain cancers. And so we did not pursue looking at each and every type of pediatric cancer based on not seeing an elevation in that broad picture in the first study. But we did look at, we didn't just go straight to pediatric brain cancer.
Right, and
We
what
did.
you're looking for, radium, doesn't even cause brain tumors.
No, in the first study, we looked at adults and children. That's what I'm saying. And all cancer rate in adults seemed to be elevated, but just a tiny bit. And, let me finish. All right. Let me finish. There are 800 or 900 of you, and it's not hard to run out. So let me just try to finish this talk. We did look at all cancers in adults over the time period, and it showed a slight elevation that was not going to be statistically significant with the increase in your population.
If we could.
I understand. I mean, we really do. We did look at the whole picture, and it pointed to looking at pediatric cancers, brain cancers, as something that needed to be looked at deeper, and that's what we did.
What he was saying, is just that there's a discrepancy. Is it 12? Is it 3? Where are we with this?
And that's what the county tried to do with that timeline, is to explain why sometimes it looks like 6, sometimes we're talking about 4, sometimes we're talking about 12. It depends on what years you're lumping together. If you're lumping together, if you're looking at the whole span of 1994 to 2008, that's where you get the 12 or 13 cancers.
Okay, wait. If you could just finish, and then we really have to move on to the next question. We can't be taking shout-outs from the crowd. We need to try to keep this orderly. So, Dr. Watkins, if you would just conclude, and then we will go to the madam who's patiently waiting at the microphone.
Okay, so most of the numbers you heard were the 4 and the 6 and the smaller numbers, and that's because, as you saw in that timeline, the number of cases were more frequent in the later years, so we focused on the more recent years. So that's what those numbers are.
Thank you. Madam?
Hi, my name's Camilla, and my daughter lives in the acreage. And I think you guys are overlooking the fact that everybody's paying about $400 a pop to get their wells and water tested. Somehow they're coming back with radium in the well water. I find it hard to believe that you did a whole grid and never got any. But be that as it may, I think one of the other things you're overlooking, you say, well, once you treat the water inside the house, it becomes under EPA standards. Well, that's all well and good. That's true. Has anybody ever thought about a carbon filter and how radioactive it becomes once it filters out all the radium-226? And further, on the other side of the wall, now I have charts here that takes in air, or approximately 500 feet, to half the dose of radiation you're getting from that carbon filter. Every time you sprinkle your lawn with that same water, you're irradiating your lawn. Every time your water softener works, you're dumping irradiated water on the ground. And I want to know how you think we're going to get the beds of those of the carbon filters changed without having a nuclear hazard waste company come out and a certified technician, and how much is that going to cost? So I think you need to be looking at carbon filters and how close children are sleeping to those carbon filters, because radium, as it is ingested, tends to cause lymphomas, leukemia, and osteosarcoma once it is stored in the bone. Brain tumors are not among those. I think you need to look some more, and I think you need to provide the people with county water. It's as simple as that. You'll never solve the problem without it.
Okay, John, I think, can you address the issue of filtration and radiation and how that works possibly?
Well, first of all, I'll start by radiation follows an inverse square law. If you double the distance, the exposure goes down by 4, and that's plain physics. So 400 inches or 400 to make it, no, that's not correct. If you, no, it's not 6,000, your calculations are incorrect. I'm sorry about that. I don't care what your chart is, but I can tell you it's incorrect.
John.
Now, this is if you use half value layers for things. The fact is, if you double the distance away from a radioactive source, you're going to get 1/4 of the exposure.
That's fine. So double the distance, that's 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet from measuring at what?
From your
Well, the specific one she has is 200 micro-R per hour on contract. Okay, let's say it's 200 micro-R per hour at 1 centimeter. Okay, let's double the distance from 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters. We now are at 1/4 of the original exposure. We are now down at 50 micro-R per hour. Double it again from 2 to 4. We're now, take 1/4 of 50. We're now at 12.5 micro-R per hour. We can double that again. We are now at 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters is about 3 inches, and we are down to...
Not in air.
I'm
Not in air. And
yes, ma'am, even in air.
her carbon filter is 200 microrads per hour.
Yes, that's correct. That's the reading that the consultant gave them. But I can also assure you the physics, and if we send somebody out there to measure it, I guarantee you that doubling the distance, it will be 1/4 of it.
Then
That's part of what we are doing, is that the Department of Health is committed that for the 12, we will be sending individuals out to do gamma surveys of the inside of the home and the outside.
Okay.
If there are specific areas where the homeowner is interested, we will actually go out and do more intense surveys on wherever the
okay,
homeowner
that's
asks us to do.
fine. Then you change the carbon filter bed.
Okay, I think just the point that John just was well made, and I don't know if you heard that or not, but the Bureau of Radiation is committed and has committed, and they will be coming out within the next 10 days, and they'll start some radiation testing in the acreage area. So, I mean, he can't specifically debate the report that the young woman just presented, but I can offer, if you would like to send it to us at the Department of Health, or even the Health Department, we'll be happy to get that to John and then talk even from there with the people that compiled that particular report and see if we can reach some sort of a common ground or a better explanation. So again, that's all we can offer, or what we can offer at this time, and emphasize that this is continuing. So, Madam, if we could have another question over here, please.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming and all the further research you say you're going to do to help us. But my question is more for what can we as parents and residents do right now? We have children that have been living here for years. There's possible exposure to an unknown. According to the media and all the last meetings that I've attended here, we've been told to live in this bubble. Don't walk on the soil barefoot. Don't drink the water. Don't brush your teeth with the water. Limit exposure. Be careful swimming in your pool. Don't launder your clothes there. How are we expected to live here in this bubble, not knowing if it is the water, if it is the soil, if it is the air, but stay put and wait and keep getting your children exposed? What preventative measures do we realistically take, and what medical tests should we have our children tested for now? Blood, urine, what do we need to do right now, today?
I think Dr. Turner, would you like to address it? All right, Dr. Watkins.
My heart, I'm a mother, my heart goes out. I'm serious. So let me just say that, you know, get your well tested. Get your well tested. Provide your home with safety measures in terms of carbon monoxide monitors. Do the things that you know and we understand that we can protect your family. Make sure that you're getting to your doctor if you have concerns about health. And understand that, I mean, everybody up here would like to stand in front of you with a box of tests and say, these are the things we need to do today, and then we get rid of this. And unfortunately, science isn't quite there, and that's why we're reaching out to our federal partners.
I feel like we're being told, just keep waiting, just keep waiting. You know what? While we wait, more kids are getting sick, more adults are getting sick, and we're just waiting. We're just waiting. And I don't want to wait any longer and wake up paranoid every time I want to put ice cubes in my drink and have a soda. I don't want to watch my kids brush their teeth and feel guilty that I might have let them get exposed, knowing I live in a potential health hazard and I don't know what it is. How can I go to
The answer to your question is simple. Most pediatricians in their career see 0 or 1 cancers. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. Your pediatrician's not trained in medical school to identify pediatric cancer, okay? So be patient. You have 400 kids coming into your clinic in 3 weeks. They have headaches. You can't scan every kid. It costs too much. Society won't allow it. The insurance companies can't afford it. It'll come into it. I'm just trying to give everyone some background. Just wait. Let me finish. I'm on your side. You have to be good parents. You have to follow kids that have irritability, which is a vague medical term for things are bothering them, they're not listening, they're not answering, they're falling off their growth curves with their pediatrician, they're having visual hearing problems, something's not right. You go through the normal things. Usually there's a trial of antibiotics, a lot of times for sinusitis, etc. There's not usually the first thing a doctor thinks about is a brain tumor. You don't want to go to a pediatrician who thinks the first thing that your kid has is a brain tumor. That's not the pediatrician you want. So you need to... I think the doctors are struggling to do the best they can in a tough situation. Now, to be frank, I was on a task force for the national group, the Children's Oncology Group, and I proposed that we study the measurement of radiation delivered to children for normal testing, CAT scans, X-rays. Just to do that and to figure out how to do that is going to take us 10 to 15 years for exposure.
Wait, if we could, please.
No.
You know, the only thing that, sir, or doctor, if we could, please, doctor. Excuse me, please. We have people.
This is what happens when people don't get answers.
Again, unfortunately, if I could please, we don't have all the answers tonight. All we can offer is to continue to look for those answers and then try to get back to you as quickly as we possibly can. Okay, if we could have the next question, please. Thank you.
My name is Bill. I've been here since 1992.
Please, if you'd like to get in line to ask a question, if you would do so, that would be greatly appreciated. Sir, you have the floor.
My name is Bill. I've been here since 1992. My wife is riddled with cancer. Are you trying to tell me it's only for children that get the cancer? She's got colon mutation to her colon, her ovaries, and her breast. The doctors claim they've never seen it before.
Please, if you would, the gentleman has the floor.
Now, because this cancer cluster is known, her insurance company won't do any treatments for her. So now we're stuck. What do we do?
Please, please, if we could have some order, please. Sir, if you could, if we could get your name and your phone
My name
number.
is Bill Hart.
Thank you. And you live in the acreage?
I live
But
on
I don't need you to give me the
76th Street.
address. Okay.
My mother died right behind this school, riddled with cancer. My wife and I live 5 miles away on 76th Street.
Okay.
She's riddled with cancer. Their doctors claim they've never seen it. Now, my question also is, when they came and did the testing, I've been out here from 1992, and I've seen them canals go down low. But since they've been testing, that canal on 60th Street has been flood tide. It's all the way up. That means that it's keeping down the rate, the testing results, because it's being cut with the water. Come out to the back of my house when there's a drought, and you'll see all the fish floating in the canal behind the house. This is poison going into our waters, and I blame U.S. Sugar because the U.S. government owns it. They've been pumping DDT into the ground from 1923 till 1998. What are we going to do about it?
Okay. All I can answer is Ms. Yan? Ms. Yan?
Yes.
From DEP? I'm sorry. I know you're going to be involved with DOH, CDC, Environmental Protection Agency, et cetera. Is there any plans, or could there possibly look at those canals that the gentleman is addressing when the parameters, I guess,
The government is the U.S. Sugar Company, okay? That's the government. So all of you work for the government. How do we know that they didn't send you down here to pacify us? Because all this stuff that you put on the screen was wasting our valuable questioning time. Instead of letting us talk to you, you've told us about the radiation machine and all these
If we could,
things.
please, Ms. Yan, if you would respond briefly.
Right.
I mean, is it a possibility that we could look at that?
At this point, I would say anything is on the table, but the real next step is working with the Department of Health on the acts that have found in their study. You're right, we did test those canals. The important testing that happened back in August was testing of the Seminole Improvement District and the water coming out of that treatment plant.
Right.
Because we knew you weren't drinking the water in the canals.
Right. But
So we had to focus.
They had got a reading of 12.6, and then it came back another test, and it was under 5 or 6. So why?
All right.
Why
Time. Thank you.
And the only comment about the U.S. Sugar is when we said we tested with a look for both agriculture and industrial, that's part of that thinking. Citrus groves, sugar cane, so those were the kind of parameters we were looking for. Did not find them in that first sweep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. If we could, Madam.
First of all, I want to say my heart goes out to everyone here who has a child who has cancer. It's a horrible thing. You guys keep saying that you're going to test the affected families' homes. Do you not think every person in this auditorium tonight has not been affected? We are all families from the acreage that have been affected one way or another, whether it be physically, emotionally, financially, mentally. Every day it plagues us. You have now put a stigma on our entire area. We have lost everything that most of these people out here have worked for their entire lives. We don't have insurance companies. Some families don't have health insurance to make sure their children don't have tumors. What is the state going to do for them? Why aren't there mobile units out here doing PET scans on all the kids out here? Why isn't the medical bills being paid? Those are the questions we have. That's what we want to know. We understand you cannot find out where the source is today, but what are you going to do to take care of these people until you give us answers? That's what we want to know.
Dr. Turner?
What we can do is continue to work with your county health department and support your county health department.
Does that pay their bills?
No, it does
Does
not.
that
It
ensure
does
that
not.
this child sitting at home that doesn't have health insurance is going to be tested for a tumor and might not die in 6 months? What is that going to do for the families financially now? That's what we want to know. Now you've put a stigma on our entire area. Nobody can sell their homes. Nobody can get any money to pay medical bills from their homes.
Okay, would you please, Dr. If you could let her finish, please. That would be great.
That's the answers that I'm sure most of these people want to know. How are they going to be treated if their child does have cancer? And what are you going to do for us on a federal level? The state level has done nothing. Nothing so far except kept us in the dark and treated us like we're very uneducated.
We don't have control over the issues with insurance companies.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We understand you don't have control over the insurance companies. We understand you don't have control over the homeowners insurance or the mortgage companies. We want to know what you are going to take control over. What are you going to pay for? We know that. We've already been told that by your insurance companies. What is the government, because nobody out here has done the dumping. Nobody out here has polluted the water. So what are you guys going to do for these people to ensure that they don't get sick or that the people that are sick don't lose everything paying a medical bill?
That is a discussion that I think is even at a higher level than those of us who are here.
All right.
Because it is, it's a much larger issue that we have to look at as a state. It is a large issue that has to be addressed as a state.
I think if we can, please, let's bring Border back in if we may. If you would, please. Thank you. The only thing that we can say, and Dr. Turner said, is it is a higher authority, but we do have our gentlemen, our representatives in the state legislature on TV, and I'm sure they've heard you loud and clear, and they are on the budget they're on the budget committees. They are there to try and get you that money. So I would like to pass that on to them. I think Mark or one of you, Representative Bruzzo, would you have something to say on that?
We have heard you loud and clear. We are going to do everything we can to bring everybody together, local, state, and federal, to bring down dollars and resources for this very difficult situation. When? Session starts March 2nd. We are going to look legislatively at any way we possibly can to put into law or bring down or some factual initiatives to bring support to our community.
The governor has spoken on this, and he has made this a priority, so that was encouraging. This is not a partisan issue. This is something that we need to work together on. This is too important. Lives are at stake, and so I don't want to have to wait until March 2nd when session starts. We're going to take what we heard here tonight and take it to the governor and see if we can start moving on this right away. I hear what you're saying loud and clear. It is frustrating because you have been waiting long enough, and you deserve answers, you deserve testing, and you deserve emergency dollars to come down and help you right away. So we hear you, and we're going to take your message right across the hall to the governor's office.
Let me say this. Over the past week,
Thank you, Representative and Senator Ehrenberg and Representative Abruzzo. If we could move now to the gentleman to the left, my left, your right.
Yeah, my name's Kelly Winslow, and I'm a professional engineer, and we've been doing testing in the acreage for about the last 6 months. And I thought it was important to try and answer this lady's question on what you can and cannot do now. You do need to test your water, okay? We've spent 40 minutes here listening to you guys, and you didn't admit that there are elevated levels of radiation in the water, okay? That's crystal clear, both on the DEP report and on all the test data. 80% of the wells tested, both privately and by the DEP, showed elevated levels of gross alpha radiation. Okay? 10% of the wells tested privately and by DEP showed elevated levels above the thresholds. Okay? That's crystal clear. And the DEP went so far to say it's perfectly fine and safe. Okay? But the treatment plant is treating that water with reverse osmosis down to 0. Okay? So the treatment plant is telling you right now that there is a problem, and they're taking care of it in their water, so why aren't we telling these people they need to do the same thing? Okay, how do we do this? How do we do this? We test the water coming out of the ground, and we test the water in your house. If you have problems coming into the house, then you need to take care of your treatment system, get it serviced correctly, and get it maintained correctly. And if you have high TDS levels, if you see stuff in your water, it's telling you you have poor quality water and you're going to have elevated levels coming in the house. So you've got to take care of your treatment system correctly. Okay. Second comment. Mr. O'Malley up here said that radon was not a problem. Okay. Our testing confirmed exactly the same numbers you showed in the houses. But what you didn't say was that radon at extremely high levels is showing up in the water because you didn't test it. So don't rule that out, okay? We had radon levels of 2,000 to 6,000 in the water. So please don't ignore that, okay? My final comment is, in 1994, an affluent community in South Miami, 1,200 homes were contaminated by chlorinated solvents from dry cleaners. Within 1 year, the state had them on city water, period. Bond issued, they got them on city water immediately. Sunnyland, Florida.
Thank you for your comments. Over here on the other side, Robin.
Hi, I want to say hi to the representatives. No, that's not what you want to hear. What you want to hear from the people up here is that I'm Shelley Vanna, County Commissioner. What we want to hear from people here is that you from the state are going to help us through this. Because these people, whether they are frightened because their children might be sickened, or they're frightened because economically they're going to be devastated, we need help on both of those issues, and we need the help now. We actually need it yesterday. So when you go back, whoever you have to talk to, that is the highest level, we need to have an answer from you about how we deal with this whole scenario in real time. I think this is a bigger issue than local, but it's going to have to involve all of us. And I appreciate very much the folks who are up there. I have worked with these men, and they care about what happens to you. So please go across the hall now, or wherever you have to go, and talk to the people who can help us tomorrow, not in 5 years or 10 years. And whether or not people are at risk, we have to have a plan for putting parents' minds to rest that their children are all right. And if that means screening them, so be it. But from what is happening now, people can't go on with this kind of fear in their lives. We have to screen the kids, not because we think they're all sick, but to make people understand that they're not if they're not. And then we have to figure out what's going on. We need your help now.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanna.
My name is Michelle McGovern. I'm Senator Nelson's regional director here. And my question to you is this. Have you reached out to the experts, not necessarily the government experts, but university and scientific experts in the field to take you to the next level? As we understand it, the CDC guidelines say that for phase 3 of this study involves outside expertise on this issue. Who have you reached out to, or will you reach out to, the top experts in this field in order to help find these answers?
Dr. Turner.
The Centers for Disease Control are coming next week to Tallahassee to address this issue, to provide us with guidance. They are the federal experts who can then connect us with those people, the National Institute of Health as well, and National Cancer Institute. They are connected to the network of researchers who either are doing studies that have not yet been published. We've reached out to the National Cancer Institute for that purpose, the National Institute of Health, to see to scan the country and help us to determine if there's any other areas that are addressing this or can provide us with guidance. So that is the means that we have to start to reach out to the universities, the teaching hospitals, et cetera, where the research is ongoing. So that is a process that is occurring now.
Thank you. On the right, there you go.
You know, I just want to speak for all of the residents in the acreage. I also have a home in the acreage, which I left, and I am so mortified, dumbfounded the way it's so played down. There are so many adults that are sick with cancer. You all talk about pediatrics, and we feel for those children. We feel for them. But why is it so minimized? Why is it such a small thing? I haven't heard one person talk about all the adults that are sick. We left. I got a CAT scan because I was sick. We left. We had the option to leave. So many families don't have the option to leave. We look at your blank faces. You all look so sad and mortified. Nobody has an answer. Well, I did a little research on my own that maybe a lot of people don't know. I don't know how legitimate. I'm not a big computer person, but I went to MapMaker, Cancer Cluster Victims, and I was mortified. I'm just going to go very fast what I found with all the little red dots with all the updates. And most of them were not children. I'm going to say child by child. The others are just, if I say 1 or 2, those are adults. Hamlin, 1 child. Below Hamlin, on 88th place, 1. 86th Road, 2. 83rd Place North, 1. 85th Road, 1. Citrus Grove Boulevard, 2. Mind you, I excluded the lung cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, all of those. These are only lymphoma and brain cancers, okay, that nobody is talking about. You with your sad little faces are not talking about, okay? 77th Place North, 1. 75th Lane North, 2. 76th Place North, 1. So I'm shaking like a leaf even saying this to everybody. 76th Road North. 2 children also on 76th Road North. Key Lime Road, 1. 73rd Court North, 1. This goes on, and this was only a quarter because it took me an hour and a half, and I thought I was going to faint looking at all this. 73rd Street North, 1. 83rd Place North, 2. Orange Boulevard, 2. Loxahatchee grown, a child with a brain tumor, age 7, already died. Off Royal Palm Boulevard, 4. 40th Street North Road, 2. 40th Lane North, 3. 46th Court North. And it goes on and on and on. And they want me to be quiet, but my point is, we're asking these lovely officials questions, and I believe they do not have the answers. You have to seek counsel, and they're the ones that will test our water. They'll tell us the right things to do. They will help the people like myself who had to flee, that are worrying about our home and our real estate and our health and our lives. And God willing, if anybody leaves, you leave with your health intact. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. Madam on my right.
like they're going to answer.
I just want to say one thing. The one on Keyline was my father-in-law, okay? He died from a glioblastoma level 5. The doctor told us it can get to the size that it was within a 6-week time period. He's one of the adults that aren't even being counted. Why? I know you're just saying that it's the children, and by God, everybody knows our kids are the most important things in our lives. But there are adults out here that are dying from it. I don't know if you've seen our website. We have a website.
If you could, please, if you would let her respond. And thank you.
And again, when we started this study, we looked at adult brain cancers too, and it did not show an elevation in the acreage. I mean, there are a lot. Okay. Okay. The category all cancers, that means when we looked at all cancers for adults, showed some elevation that did not pan out with increases in population. The category, of course we looked at adult brain cancers. All right, let me just finish this thought, which is that the sentence, which is that adult brain cancers did not show elevated in that first report. We looked at adult, we looked at pediatric, and pediatric was elevated. We looked at all cancer in adult, marginally elevated, what not elevated after we did the population recalculations. When the cancer registry collects cancers, it collects them from all sorts of places. It collects from the hospital, the doctor, the pathology reports, and it also sweeps death certificates. So if cause of death was a primary brain cancer, that should be included in the registry. So adult cancers were looked at for the period 1995 to 2007.
All right. Okay. That's absolutely correct. That is posted from the Phase 1 report, again, against population numbers. And then I think if you look at that, sir, the adult levels of cancer as well as these pediatric. However, I want to preface that. I want to preface that a little. Please, if we could. Madam, do you have a question over here? I think we have to move forward. Yes.
Before, I'm honestly really embarrassed at the way everybody's acting in here tonight. I mean, this is, I'm sorry. I have to say, one, I've lived in the acreage since 1980. And if you would like to start with a home as far as searching, for radiation buildup in a home, please start with mine. My house was built in 1980. I've lived in it since 1980. I drink the well water. I still drink the well water. I'm not afraid of drinking the water. I don't think it's the water. I have never heard so many people so upset to hear the health department say there are not elevated cancer rates. I mean, it seems, I really want to know, one, how many children with cancer are there that are beyond the statistic? Is it 3? And you're based, I have a list of questions, and I've listened to everybody. I've listened to the audience scream, so let me take my questions now. You've pinned us with the designation of a cancer cluster, and it has affected our community, as you can hear tonight. It has made people very angry. It's made people very upset, some because they're afraid for their children, some because they're concerned about their property values. So you can't just leave us, excuse me, it's my turn. You can't just leave us with this designation without continuing on with the studies. If there are additional adults that should be included, then you need to include that. I have not heard those statistics. All I've heard you say is that they were not really beyond the norm. So if they are beyond the norm, then that needs to be included. On the population numbers, for years the county has been telling us that we have a population for purposes of land use of between 45,000 and 50. So that could skew your figures. In addition, I have always heard that residents in the acreage have larger numbers of children than anywhere else in the county or in the country. We are prolific baby makers. So the average could be 1.5. Our average is 3.2. So it's higher than normal. We paid over $1 billion to bring Scripps to Palm Beach County. We paid over $200 million to bring Max Planck. Let them study this issue with our tax dollars that they benefited from. Since the county, or since the health department only studies clusters when somebody asks for it, I want studies done in every other municipality to see what their rates are, instead of just picking or penning our community with a cancer cluster, especially when there's reports like I got today that say all of South Florida has a cancer cluster.
There you go.
So, I mean, we need some answers, and we need the right kind of answers, and I don't want people freaking out and thinking we're something special, you know, and that we should have cancer. I don't want them yelling at you, but I do want you giving us the information and studying what needs to be studied. Thank you.
Thank you. Lady over in the blue.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I built a house out here in 1988, and I'm addressing your timeline, your pediatric cancer timeline. There's a person missing in 1996, which is my son, who passed away from a medulloblastoma, which has been addressed. They haven't heard of one occurring out here. Well, it was here, and I'm concerned that your statistics are not accurate, because I know he's missing.
Okay. And I would like to talk to you after so that we can exchange information, names after, not on camera.
Thank you.
All right.
This side, madam.
Ready?
Yeah,
How you doing, guys?
Am I ready?
Let's get some statistics here. Your scorecard from the EPA. This is called the scorecard, done by the EPA. Based on EPA most current data, this county ranked among the dirtiest and worst of the 10% of counties in the United States for air quality, as per the Act. Let's start going with the air, people. I hear all the water people. I'm looking at the air. The numbers from March 2004 was the fact that the population in the acreage was 44,763. Our elected officials are saying there's 50,000. What are the true numbers? Because if those are the numbers, then our cancer numbers are a little skewed. When I read articles in Facebook that people who didn't even live here, that their child had cancer in vitro, I'm worried about us. I want facts. When I speak before the county, the one thing they know is I ask for facts, and I get the facts. Because we have a population out here, we have people out here saying we want city water. Be careful what you ask for, because it's going to cost us. Right. And it's going to cost a lot, because Palm Beach County Water Utilities borrowed a lot of money to put water out here. So get the numbers. Because I'm wondering, if I could find the numbers for our population in March of 2004 is 44,763, where are we getting these numbers from? Please get accurate numbers. I have to agree with Patty, because I'm not afraid of my water. I'm not afraid of the soil. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I'm not in here screaming at you. I've called Tim, God bless Tim, at the health department. Mr. Abruzzo, I called your office and tortured you yesterday. So I just want you to get accurate numbers and accurate tests and accurate scores. Do we have 50,000 or do we have none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My name's Christina. I'm glad that Michelle and Shelley are here with the Indian Trail District because, as we all know, with this designated cancer cluster, our homes are worth nothing. And Indian Trail does not need to pay millions of dollars to pave roads. Thank you, Michelle. Save our money. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. Another thing that I was upset about, and I agree with Patty, now that we're a designated cancer cluster, we won't be able to sell our homes. They're worth nothing. CBS, Channel 12 came on after the cluster was declared on 11 o'clock, and one of our greedy realtors in the area got on the local and was interviewed in her office. It just wasn't walking down the street. And someone says, what does this do to the real estate value in the acreage? And she declared, it's devastating. Who would ever want to live in a cancer cluster? These homes will be worth half what these people paid for. And this mentality, though, in not looking at the numbers correctly and seeing really out of the total population how many children are affected, how many adults are affected before we all get labeled as a cancer cluster. And that's what bothers me, along with Indian Trail probably trying to come along with Mike and Michelle and everybody trying to raise our taxes, get more paved roads when homes aren't worth anything anyway. Anybody for more paved roads? No! We wasted enough of our tax money, Indian Trail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We got you. Madam.
Hi. My name is Deborah Ayers, and I've lived here since...
Please, quiet, if you would.
I've lived here since '95. The reason I want to know, I called the EPA and I called the DEP because after I started investigating, I noticed that since 1979, Pratt & Whitney has had numerous spills and dumps throughout the area. There's still 24 contaminants on their property. The 1980, the EPA looked into it and they were going to designate it a Superfund site. And then instead of doing that, they passed it off to the DEP, who did remediation, and I guess basically they have a private contractor that comes out there to see how things are going. Since then, there's been numerous spills. In 2003, that I-4 dioxide. There's been thorium dispersed nickel, which I think causes radium. Our scientist over there, maybe he can tell me if that causes radium. And when I looked at the tests, they didn't test for the spilled chemicals. The chemicals that were on the list, the TCE, where they had the cancer scare at Pratt & Whitney in 1980, they only tested like 16 wells for that I-4. Test for TD nickel that causes radiation.
I'm not totally sure what all they've tested for.
I
don't
called
have that
the
level of
DEP
detail.
and they said no.
Yeah, can I back up a little on all of Pratt Whitney? And thank you, Mrs. Ayers. I've seen your emails with
Yes,
Tony Tribb.
But has the health department ever done a report since 1988 when they said that materials were disposed of in the landfills, incinerated in trenches, solvents and solvent sludges, asbestos, fuels, paints, pesticide, herbicide, chemicals, garbage, sewage, sludge. Human exposure to contaminated groundwater is of concern. This site is within the 100-year floodplain. Surface water runoff and flooding may introduce contaminants to the wetlands and canals that drain the site. Uptake of contaminants by fauna exposed to surface water.
Okay.
Wind-blown dust could originate at Area C burn pit, which exhibits no vegetation.
Ms. Young.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
I want to back up and do Pratt Whitney in a more general answer, knowing that this
He ain't
would come
gone
up.
out there. That's
Please,
my...
if you would let her respond, thank you.
Okay, so important points about Pratt Whitney, because I know there's been a lot of question and speculation as to whether there's a connection with the issues in the acreage and Pratt Whitney. Important point number one, they are under a DEP permit for corrective action for hazardous waste cleanup, those very things that you're talking about. The reason that EPA back in the 80s said, we're not going to do this under the Superfund program is because there was that ability for the state of Florida to take it on and do it in our hazardous waste program. So that's the reason for the handoff. It probably got things moving quicker to do it with DEP doing it.
Did you know that there's been a 10-year study in New Haven, Connecticut by the Department of Health of Connecticut looking into the same brain cancers of Pratt & Whitney employees, that rare brain cancer?
Two important points that I'd love to make. One, the information that we have, and
Please, if we could finish, thank you.
just
Please.
let me finish. The information that we have, there are a lot of monitoring wells on this property. The contamination that is on that property has not migrated off-site with the exception of one.
Did you ever test our area when this happened? Did you ever come out and test the soil, the canals, or wells?
The one exception to contaminants being off-site is 1,4-dioxane in the Corbett Wildlife Management Area. That's the only thing that is off-property.
Did you ever come out to our area after that spill and test our water or test our canals to see if it got into our soil or our water?
That's a level of detail I would have to research for you. I do not have that information at my fingertips tonight.
Were we ever test for TCE when they had that spill?
I will tell you that our information and knowledge we have of Pratt Whitney is that it is not a direct connection to the problems at the acreage.
Have you tested people's blood to see if it's in their blood, these chemicals?
One of the questions that we can ask as we go forward with Department of Health is if there is any correlation with workers. We don't know who works there and how that interacts with what Department of Health has done. We intend to ask that question.
Okay.
Okay.
What about percolate? Percolate, has that been tested?
Please, I don't have that level of detail with me tonight. I'll be happy to get with you.
Please. Thank you. Sir, over on this side.
Good evening. My name's Louis Sierra, and I'm one of the many concerned parents here. A regular blue-collar guy, okay? The question that I have, are these clusters only affect the brain, or are they affecting other organs in the body? The reason I ask that is because my 7- and 9-year-old for the last 2 years have been experiencing liver problems. And the only result my wife and I seem to get is a high hospital bill. And the other thing that I wanted to ask, are the tumors on my animals a sign of what's going on? That's the question that I have.
Okay, we're not aware of any elevation in liver problems, and I'm not aware of what would be causing elevated brain cancer and liver problems. I'm writing this down, and we can discuss this as a combination with CDC when they come next week.
It just seems pretty frustrating to us because, when we do go to the hospital and, that's the only option that we have. It seems like the doctors there keep us there for hours. They do CAT scans, MRIs, and they can't seem to pinpoint anything. And nobody's giving us any answers. It seems like when we ask the question about the issues going on here, their faces seem to drop and they don't know what to tell us.
Okay.
But that's my question for
Sir,
tonight. Thank you.
Can you
Okay.
repeat your name as well, please? And
My name's Louis Sierra.
Lucio?
Louis Sierra.
Okay.
Sierra.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At
Okay,
least.
and about the animal aspect of your question, we have received a number of reports or comments from you that there are illnesses in your pets. And, you know, at this time, we don't have a way of evaluating them. I mean, we're not quite sure what that means. We can say that sometimes animals their health does indicate some of general problems in an area, or they can be exposed and have effects that are similar. So there is a veterinarian in Palm Beach County that is collecting some of those, and we're aware of them, and we plan to work on that too.
One last thing that I got to ask. One last thing. Are there any organizations to help out people that maybe don't have the resources, the funds to get the proper testing? Because it seems like when we do call Medicaid on this kind of issue, they don't want to answer any of our questions. Are there any specific organizations that are just specifically, you know, concerning this problem here?
I am not aware of one, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. We're going to gather your information. We'll get it back to your...
Can we get your information after?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, we can provide that if we're able to find something to assist.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, over here with the hat, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for being here. My name is Sam Carter. My wife Diane and I are residents. I'm a girls softball coach out here at the Acreage, and we really enjoy our community, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and ask you. My point or comment is in a slightly different direction. I'm happy to leave the scientific process to the people who know more about it than I do, and I will be monitoring that closely. I'm more interested in, as a couple of other people have mentioned earlier, what exactly, you know, sort of we can do as we're waiting for the process to play out. I, for example, tried to look into whether or not the well that was installed at my home, well before we moved into it, was installed using best practices. I understand that they shouldn't be too shallow and all that sort of thing. And I called the county, and the person was very polite in telling me that you know, the records are too old for us to know. So I guess I'd have to go out and get that, you know, tested on my own to find out how deep my well is and whether or not it's safe and all that. But you know, I really do want to reemphasize what other people have brought up, a list of sort of practical things, not pie in the sky. We understand the answers aren't going to be forthcoming immediately, but things like, you know, is your well safe? Is this, you know, things that you can look for soil? You know, I've seen questionable things anecdotally being, you know, dumped out in property lots and so forth. And I'd like to just know some common sense things that I, as a homeowner, as a resident, as a parent of an 8-year-old girl, might be able to keep an eye out for and sort of assess my personal level of risk, because, you know, I think we're all going to be here for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to address the well and the depth issue even possibly, or?
We do have on our website, we do have information about private wells, about maintenance, about well testing. Those are good, solid ideas that can be done. As the engineer had pointed out in the crowd before, maintenance of the system, about twice a year you should do that, and an annual screening of basic biologic bacteria, and then a nitrate, good indicators for your wells. But we have that information posted on Palm Beach County Health Department.com, and if you call our office, we'll certainly give you help and guidance. That is one of the things that you can do. Understand the depth of the well is a concern. A lot of people say that they don't know the depth of the well. The only requirement for well construction as far as depth is concerned is that they're able to get to the zone that provides potable water to you, or serviceable water. It could be at 40 feet, it could be at 90 feet. Depends on the local geology, the lens, the marl layers that are there, and how deep. Usually we say the deeper the better, okay? But knowing the geology out in the acreage, you are faced with what they call a superficial aquifer that penetrates down approximately 900 feet. So basically, the sampling that DEP had conducted is a good, valid representation of the water source. Okay, so we start with that's pretty good right now. It is a threatened water source in that it is definitely sand, biblical sand, and if you spill something on the surface, it can penetrate to the water source very easily. And so it's a threatened water source, but with good maintenance and routine, if you have a good treatment system in place and routine maintenance, the water quality there, I assure you, meets standards.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Halstead. I've been a resident out here for 25 years. Raised 4 children, 4 girls, ages 25, 24, 23, and 21. So I guess that woman did have something that pertained to me as far as fertilization. I've been insulted twice here in the last year. Once was when I got my tax assessment bill for $300 more for a house that's worth, like the other people stated, absolutely nothing. And the second was tonight when I received a flyer from an insurance agency. And I am very upset with this. Why would somebody at the door of a meeting for cancer cluster hand me an insurance waiver? I am very, especially in letting Palm Beach County school board, they don't let anything else in and out of their schools, but they can allow something as frivolous as this. Cancer care protection, handed to me at the door of this facility. Now, that's one of them. I don't know where we stand on this. I don't know where we're going to go with this. I'm just up in the air, and I can tell you this. If you don't think that you people living out here are going to be infected by your job, because once they find out you live out here, your insurance rate, your insurance company is going to drop you. I have right now a mass on my right side. Doctors told me it's a hernia. All they want to do, they ask me all the time, do you have pain? I said, no, I have no pain. Do you need pain pills? Ain't got no pain. It just seems like it's like the last person. Where do we go? And I don't believe it is in the water because, like I said, I raised 4 kids and we drank the water. I drink out of a garden hose. I'm an old redneck. I'm out cutting my grass. I drink out of the hose. And I don't know where, like I said, where do we go? And let's all do it together. We're here as a unified body, and I'm looking into getting a lawyer right now. And if anybody wants to get on a bandwagon, we're going to put our tax money in escrow, and we are going to hold it as ransom. We are not going to pay anymore until, you will not get our tax money until we go further and find out what is causing this problem. And we hold on to our money. We put it in, a lawyer's going to hold on to our tax money. And when the county will get our money when we get our answers. And if you want another 25 mil, go see Tony Masalotti because he's got it.
Thank you very much. And I just want to reassure you, unfortunately, we were unaware they were passing that out, that flyer, and it really would not have been allowed. So it's fine. I just want to apologize that it happened. We didn't endorse it. And again, take it for what it is. That's all I can offer at this time. Sir.
Hello, my name is Mike Davis. I've been a resident out here for 20 years. Just real quickly, lady had addressed possible radiation problems associated with the carbon filters. I just want to let you know, I've been an industrial radiographer for 28 years. Radiation safety is my life. Okay? I'm not a big fan of what the man had to say, but in one thing he did say was correct. For every 2 feet you're away from that carbon filter, your radiation dose is cut by 4 times. Inverse square law. Okay? So alpha and beta particles are probably, of all the radiation spectrum, is probably the least hazardous if you had to give it a classification. So I wouldn't think that being living or sleeping next to the carbon would have anything to do with it. Just my opinion. So just my 2 cents worth. On the issue of statistics, I'm a statistic. Look at me. My former spouse had a brain tumor. Fortunately, it was not cancerous. Brain tumor, cancerous, diagnosed 4 months apart. Okay? I've noticed on your statistics that you said that you interview people to get background information and so forth. This family, approximately 4 months after their daughter died, moved. They could not stand living in the house that their daughter died in. I want to know, did you track people down that don't no longer live in this area, that their kids died or family members died of brain tumors, or did you just interview the people who are still currently living here? And is there, I know you said in adult, you've been studying for the adults. My wife was 35 years old when diagnosed. She was an adult. So fortunately, she lived through it. So I want to know that slightly elevated cancer tumor for adults, anything above 0 is not tolerated. And if taken in accumulation with the kids, which I was directly affected, or I should say indirectly affected, by my neighbor who I was very close with, all of that together, one thing is bad, all of it together, we should be banging on Obama's door for this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Watkins?
Let me just say that of the 12 cases that were identified and interviewed, I believe those families, whether they moved out or not, were reached out. I think they could only not locate one family. So if they were identified and diagnosed in the acreage, even if they moved out afterwards, every effort was made by the Palm Beach County Health Department to locate these families. They did indeed locate some of them, and I think they were unable to locate one family. Non-cancerous? Well, if it's classified as borderline and benign, it's in the registry as well, and those were interviewed.
My house has never made contact nor is it on the sheet and identified as being in that cluster.
And that's because you're talking about an adult case in your house, correct?
That's
correct. Correct. I understand. I hear that, and I'm explaining that the interviews were done on the pediatric, but I am. And I actually, I do. We've heard that, and I've addressing that with our federal partners. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. If I could say, I think there's a lady in the end of that line and the lady on the end of this line at this point. When we get to those questions, we will have to conclude this. We're over time already, which is okay, but we need to start wrapping this up. So in deference to the people in line, that's it. Please don't jump into line more. And then the only other thing I want to bring up, if there were 4 people in the other room, no, but they had to set up, are they all here and in line? Okay. So I just want to make sure that I had promised that they would get their questions addressed. So, okay, sir, if you would, please.
Good evening. My name's Joe. I live in the acreage now for 4 years. And I guess my question is that I've watched trucks come in and out of the acreage dumping what I consider RSM. I know RSM. I know what's in it. You know, I called DEP. They say they're supposed to keep it back from 100 feet from any open water source, cover it within 90 days with sod, grass, whatever it might be. My question is, with everything that's going on now, I just had a neighbor dump approximately 400 tons of this crap right down the street from me. It's recovered screen material. It's glass. It's lead, copper. Well, I got a little bit of experience in it, and that's my question to you, Mary Jane. Why haven't they stopped it? Right now, out of all times, you know, there's something wrong. I don't know if it's in the air, water, soil. I have no clue. I've kept my mouth shut, but there's something more to this. I know the analyst, whatever that big word is, and it's nasty. It's bad stuff. Why haven't they stopped it?
We've tried to investigate. I know what you're talking about, and we have tried to investigate
Well, but I don't
each of these
understand if
complaints.
These homeowners are signing waivers saying that they're not going to be liable for it.
Can we talk afterwards? Because I'd love to get the information to go forward on that, because it is.
It's been said. I mean, it's like it's raked up underneath the, that stuff's there.
Right. As soon as we're done, please, come, let's get together and let me get some
I got a
information.
daughter at home, 13 years old. They're up and down Hamlet. They're pouring all over the place. They don't grass nothing. They don't do nothing. They're filling ponds with the crap. I mean, how many people know this? Come on! Be honest.
Sir, Jillian is right there with you. She's going to get your information if you would give it to her, please, so we can run that down. Thank you. Over on this side, please.
Afternoon, my name is Stephen. I built a house out here a couple of years ago, and I really enjoy living out here with my family. But recently, I've been scratching my head, wondering what the heck I really had done. And I came here this evening, and all I saw was a bunch of graphs and statistics. And the statistics, everything is saying that everything is okay. And then the science show we saw, everything is bad. So something's really wrong there. I have a suggestion. I heard Indian Trail is saying they're seeking help. I wonder what help they're speaking about or they're thinking about. My suggestion is Indian Trail get together with the county get together with our legislatures in Tallahassee. Tallahassee get together with Obama. We have a crisis here, and wherever there's a crisis and a crisis exists, you need drastic action. So my suggestion is we bring water here to start and sewage for the people. Let's start alleviating one at a time. And the people should not be paying for this. Their tax money has been exhausted. Years went by on this stuff here. And we should start off with water and sewage, and we should not be paying for this. I want that message. Take the Tallahassee from Indian Trail to the county to Washington. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is James Hess. I've been in this area for just under 3 years. I have a 13-year-old daughter I'm the primary parent of. I'm a single parent, all right? I'm waiting on a phone call from my physician to let me know about a CT scan on my daughter that was just performed today, as I was rushed there with my daughter because the doctor, the physician, turned around and said it's very important that you go there. She had me in this place within an hour and 10 minutes, okay? I'm still waiting on an answer. I have the same materials dumped across the street from me, 2.5 feet high, glass, lead, garbage, in an empty lot that a guy walked away from, okay? My daughter has had headaches for the last 5 months. I have headaches for the last 6 months, okay? I don't know what to do. Tell me, I mean, I'm a single father, just like a lot of other people here. They've been here longer than me. I've never had this issue. In my background, check it. I have no cancers in any side of my family. What do I do? How do I go home and look at my daughter? My daughter is scared to death, all right? I'm here wasting time away from her to get an answer. What do you got?
Well, you're obviously doing what any parent would do, which is getting her into a doctor and trying to get her the very best diagnostic test and understand what's happening with the headaches and what's going on. Beyond that, I can't offer you advice as to what is going on next door. I'm looking to our partner DEP to maybe answer some questions about what this is. I've not heard about this dumping before.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going out here in the area. There's a lot of things being overlooked. I mean, somebody has to be held responsible for this stuff. Somebody has to get down to the bottom line. You all have to do everything you can and drag in as many people as you can to get answers in a swift way. I get a phone call tomorrow and my daughter might or may not have cancer.
Yeah.
Is next week going to help me? Is it going to help me? Is it going to fill the void?
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, Mary Jean,
Yeah.
if you would also.
Tim, let me go back to the recovered screen material, just so everybody knows. When facilities take construction demolition debris and they recycle it, and the sorting and the shaking and the screening, this is the material that's left over at the end of that process, okay? Big piles of it. It is a lot of ground up glass and pieces of wood, and it's typically not that bad of stuff, but let me finish. Let me finish. Several years ago, we contracted with the University of Florida and said, help us analyze this, help us take a look, help us figure out what various approved uses could be. And there's certain uses that are approved. Never did we say that you could just do any unlimited, land application, piling up, anything that had opportunity for exposure. You could use it as cover in a landfill, you could put it under concrete and things like that. So our district office is very interested in helping investigate these dumping complaints. That was my point earlier. If afterwards you come up to me and let us know, we'll check it out, because that's not an allowed. Okay? Right. 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 But that's not an approved use. Next question.
Okay, if we could, sir. Right here, thank you.
How you doing? I want to thank you for coming out here tonight to address our concerns. My name is Lyndon Sharif, and I'm one of those statistics with the cancer discovered in the last 2 years. On top of that, my son was diagnosed last summer with lymphoma cancer as well. A healthy child, no symptoms of anything, swim team, track team, and now he has cancer. So when you speak about just